If you think Project 2025 was bad, you haven't even heard about Project Esther, and that's exactly how they planned it to be. They want you distracted by Project 2025 because while everyone's eyes are on that, Project Esther is laying the groundwork for something 1,000 times more dangerous.
Project Esther isn't about tech, it's about control. Who gets tracked, who gets flagged, who gets locked out of service, job and housing because of a digital profile they don't consent to.
Think surveillance, suppression, sterilization, religious authoritarianism, all of the above. Project 2025 is the beginning of the manifesto. I don't think people realize that. And it's nowhere near as bad as what it could be. The targeting women, targeting queer people, targeting DEI, targeting anything that doesn't fit biblical values is the beginning to lay the groundwork for Project Esther. And it's not just a legislative plan, it's a theological one, which if you don't know what theology is, it's basically the study of God. It is, of course, backed by Christian nationalists, big surprise there. It has roots in dominionism, which basically is the idea that humans should have the ability to exploit and control other living things, including other humans, plants, nature, whatnot. In the realm of government, it essentially means the idea of conservatives, especially conservative Christians, to take control of secular civil government and use it as a religious force. Project Esther quite literally aims to replace the Constitution with biblical law. Not figuratively, I mean literally. It quite literally aims to do that. It calls for the things like criminalization of abortion as murder, a national ban, of course, mandatory submission of women to male authority, bans on anything LGBTQ+, think same-sex marriages, gender fluidity, all of it gone. Religious homeschooling to replace public schools and private. Literally, what a lot of Utah cults do think that. And yes, you guessed it, re-education camps for those who resist. They're not even hiding their agenda at all. And here's where it gets so much darker and where it physically makes me ill to think about. Project Esther claims to honor the legacy of Queen Esther, a Jewish woman who saved hundreds of her people from genocide. This same agenda is being championed by individuals and institutions deeply, and I mean deeply, aligned with white supremacists and Nazi rhetoric, something that is very anti-Semitic. The Heritage Foundation, the writers of Project 2025, and Project Esther has time and time again backed figures who quote Hitler, push replacement therapy, and use Nazi-coded language like degeneracy, purity, bloodlines, whatnot. You get the point. So tell me how an initiative claiming to stand against anti-Semitism is supporting and endorsing people who glamorize the ideology that had 6 million plus Jews slaughtered. We're weaponizing biblical stories and structures to build a fascist empire. We're using the memory of Jewish suffering to cover up the reconstruction of the same blueprint that caused it. If that doesn't make your skin crawl, scroll it back and listen to it again. Unlike Project 2025, no one's talking about it. It's not being debated by any politicians. You don't see the media or journalists talking about it because it's not supposed to be passed through Congress. It's not supposed to go through legislation. It's supposed to seep into each institution quietly until it's too late for us to do anything about it. That's why it's so important that everyone knows about this. We need every single person to start talking about this, make videos about it. This is such a horrendous plan. I kept telling people Project 2025 is just the beginning. You don't understand how bad it can get. This is the bad.
Now listen, not everything you hear online about Project Esther is accurate. There's a lot of religious fear-mongering, new world order panic, and anti-science rhetoric. That's not where we are coming from. Let's be real. These are the same folks who benefit from economic inequity, who privatize public goods, who weaponize data to control dissent, not to empower communities.
These are the different ways that Project Esther plans to achieve its goals. So its priorities are as follows. Number one, they're going to expose the critical resources fueling anti-Semitism. by gaining a comprehensive understanding of the infrastructure that sustains individuals and organizations supporting Hamas. Number 2, mobilize a coalition of private organizations. They're going to build and coordinate the efforts and activities of private organizations in the U.S. to achieve combined effects. Number 3, erode support for antisemitism. Exploit fissures within and among anti-Semites and affiliated organizations and their target audiences. Number 4, synchronize coalition actions to maximize impact. Orchestrate actions and activities across society in collaboration where appropriate with federal and state government to achieve the desired impact and align resources toward priorities. Number 5, focus. Disrupt and degrade networks and deny them the resources they need to conduct and sustain anti-Semitic behavior. Number 6, communicate. Erode support for anti-Semitic behavior. Expose the individuals and organizations supporting such language to discourage it, and laud the individuals and organizations effectively countering it to encourage others to join. And to be clear, when we're talking about anti-Semitism here, we're talking about folks who are pro-Palestine. And the idea is that if you're not for Israel, you're against it, and therefore against you're anti-American as well. And so there are many of us who do not support genocide, and therefore we are deemed anti-Semitic according to the Heritage Foundation. And that is very dangerous territory, to say that if you're not this, you are this. And there are just so many shades of grays. There's so much complexity to this issue, and I don't think that's fair, but they're going to target it. So they're going to target folks who are saying free Palestine, folks who are, and they actually mentions those specific slogans, from the land to the sea, Palestine shall be free, free Palestine, those slogans, and in Project Esther. So there's a lot of scary stuff in here that's going to impact all areas of life. So stay tuned for more.
Wait a minute. I thought Project 2025 was some shit, but now they got something called Project Esther. Ain't got shit on Project 2025. I'm just saying. So I went ahead and I took it upon myself to take some notes after reading it, and I want to go ahead and just let y'all know what's going on. So this was written by the Heritage Foundation, okay? And one of the things that's on there is all children will be homeschooled via religion, right? And anybody who resists, they have re-education camps to repurpose your brain to make you compliant. I probably should have saved this for White History Wednesday, because what? Re-education camps? Are you kidding? Abortion is criminal, and you're sentenced to unaliving if you have one. Okay? It's been written in place of the Constitution with biblical law. So they're using the Bible as law in order to control people. And speaking of the Bible, right? It's only one religion. One Bible, one God. You must comply. You can't practice religion outside of what they want us to practice. Surveillance. We thought what they doing with surveillance, like them having cameras everywhere and watching us everywhere, was a thing. No, they want to implant. They would have put something in us. And this is written. Go look it up. Like, don't take my word for it. Don't even get in the comments trying to argue with me. Go look up Project Esther, okay? They want to put implants in that keeps up with your blood pressure, your health, your everything. They want to keep up with your every move. They want to know where you are every second of the day. Granted, we know that they already have ways of doing that via other ways of surveillance, but now they want to forcibly implant us with things. Okay? Women, this is big for us because we are no longer considered people. We would be property of our husbands, okay? We can no longer drive, vote, wear our hair the way we want to. We must get permission from our husbands to do anything, okay? Sterilization. At birth, they will sterilize young girls, and when they come of age to have a baby, they will grow a baby in the lab and implant the baby in you just to keep the Caucasian race going. Population control. No more LGBTQ plus. Okay? You either straight or they unalive you as a man. But as a woman, you still have a working womb. So they're going to force you to marry a man. This low-key worse than Handmaid's Tale, because they wasn't forced to marry people. They was just forced to get hunched on. Lord have mercy. What we gonna do about this Project Esther?
One of my mutuals asked me to look into Project Esther, and I had no idea what it was when she made this comment. But me being a man of people, I decided to oblige and looked into it, and boy, oh boy. So essentially, Project Esther is the playbook that the Trump administration is using to deport pro-Palestinian protesters. The article I'm going to reference comes to us via the Vox, and I will be sure to post a link to that article in the comments so that you can see this and read this for yourself. Anyways, on to Project Esther. So the Trump administration has been arresting and detaining protesters who participated in pro-Palestinian demonstrations. They have justified these arrests by calling those protesters, without evidence, Hamas supporters. In doing so, the administration appears to be following Project Esther, a plan from the Heritage Foundation, yes, that Heritage Foundation, with the stated purpose of cracking down on anti-Semitism. Published in October, it is seen as an addendum to Heritage, better known Project 2025. Shocking? No, not really. It is also important to note that while Project Esther's intended and stated purpose is to crack down on anti-Semitism in the United States, it was written almost entirely by evangelical Christians with almost no Jewish input. That is honestly not shocking. Anyways, on to the article. Project Esther calls for the administration to rebrand pro-Palestinian supporters as Hamas supporters. It suggests public firings of pro-Palestinian professors and the deportation of student visas and green card holders who have spoken critically of Israel and advocates for using anti-racketeering laws to break up pro-Palestinian groups. This article and the whole of Project Esther lines up really well with what we've been seeing in this country as it pertains to immigrants who are here legally with permanent residences and green cards, having their green cards revoked, their student visas revoked, and are being arrested, detained, and deported for no reason. The most notable example of this, obviously, was with the detention of Mahmoud Khalil, who was a pro-Palestine activist on Columbia University here legally, right, with a student visa. Was detained by ICE in March and held until June. They had no warrant. He broke no laws. Mahmoud Khalil had no criminal record at all. Throughout that entire ordeal, they branded him a terrorist and a Hamas supporter, all types of other shit. At the end of the day, Project Esther is just yet another example of how evil Donnie's administration is, how evil the Heritage Foundation is, and all the people pulling their strings, and how they seem to have a flagrant disregard for people's lives, people's freedom, and their constitutionally guaranteed rights. At the end of the day, it's just corruption. It's just run-of-the-mill corruption at the hands of rich assholes who have nothing better to do than to infringe on people's rights and ruin their fucking lives. And it is important, now more than ever, that we all keep our eyes wide open so that we can see this fuckery coming a mile away.
Like, share, and subscribe for more political commentary from a progressive place.